Hi everyone, it's Laura here, and today I'm going to share with you a very cute, clean and simple Valentine's Day card created with products from the latest LDRS creative release. Before showing you how I made the card, I wanted to just give you a quick overview of the products that I used. I chose one of the images from this adorable Friends stamp set, and the stamp set also comes with matching dies. As you saw, the size is really big and the images are adorable. I'm then going to use one of the dies in the Open Heart die set, also by LDRS Creative, and I'm going to use that to sort of create a focal area on my card front. For my sentiment, I used the Anytime Stack stamp set and the Sentiment Stack coordinating die. This is a very easy way to create a bunch of sentiments in one go, and I will show it to you later on. And I'm also going to use one more die, and I will show it to you when the time comes. I started by creating the background for my card, and I have a top folding A2 card base as well as 2 sheets of pink cardstock in different shades that I cut to 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches, which is the size of my card front. I'm going to use this die here from the Open Heart die set by LDRS Creative to basically help me create a focal panel or a focal area on my card front. I'm going to cut the shape first out of the darker sheet of pink cardstock, and for this I'm only going to use the outline. So I'm putting most of the cardstock aside and I'm popping out this very stylish heart-shaped die cut that I'm going to use on my card front. Next, I used the same die to die cut the lighter pink cardstock, and I lined up the die with the edges of the panel so that I get sort of a separate heart-shaped die cut that I can use on my design. And then I decided that I wanted one more element on my card, so I die cut some white cardstock with the Eyelet lace rectangle die by LDRS Creative for a tone-on-tone look. I started layering the different die cuts together, and at this point I realized that I wanted that lacy pattern also on this pink die cut. So I lined up the die cut with my card front so that the corners match nicely, and then I made sure to align the rectangle die centered on my design. I ran everything through my die cutting machine, and now I have all the elements ready to build the background of my card. So as you can see, it's just a couple of passes with your die cutting machine and you get a very nice and pretty background for your card. I started by adhering the white panel to my card base. I centered it on my design, and this will create a very nice and elegant tone-on-tone look. Next, I added some more liquid glue to the back of this pink heart-shaped die cut, and I adhered it on top, making sure that the lace patterns overlap nicely. And then I completed my card-based design by gluing this heart-shaped outline right on top of the pink panel that I have on my card front already. At this point, it was time to start working on my image. I chose one of the stamps in the Friends stamp set by LDRS Creative. I think it's so sweet, and I had to use this one on this card, and I think I'll gift this to my husband. I stamped the images with LDRS Creative Raven Hybrid ink. This is a black hybrid ink, so you can use it with alcohol markers or with water-based markers or watercolors too. And today I decided to use my alcohol markers. I started by coloring the faces of these 2 little kids, and I am adding my shading basically as if the light is coming straight on. So the girl is on the right of the light source and the shadows will be on the right portion of that image, whereas for the boy I'm going to have the shadows on the left. The reason why I did this is that if you look at the design, the eye is immediately drawn towards the center of the image, so towards the book that the 2 kids are reading and towards their heads that are leaning on top of each other. So I decided to sort of embrace the design, and by adding the shadows the way I described, I'm going to help guide the eye of the viewers towards the center even more. As for most of my coloring, I'm using 3, maximum 4 shades per color. Actually, I think I used 4 shades just for the skin tones, but that is because I used a bit of a different color combination this time. I got slightly distracted, so I added my highlight color a little bit too soon, and I had to sort of correct it. But other than that, I used 3 markers per color, and in the smaller areas even just 2. For the hair, I'm going to use some flicking motions with my wrist so that I can create a bit of texture and make them look more realistic. I tend to start from my lightest marker so that I can get a feel for how to add my strokes, and I do that because if I realized that I had the wrong idea in my mind and the way I added my strokes makes the image look a bit awkward, then I have enough time and enough room to correct for that because I didn't go in with a very dark color from the beginning. Next, I moved on and started coloring the clothes of these little kids, and to choose the color palette, I kept in mind what colors I had on my card. The focal panel is pretty warm with those pink colors, so I wanted to create a bit of contrast, and I chose some blue shades both for the dress of the girl and for the t-shirt of the guy. You will see that in a little bit. And I did that because blue is a cool color, so it will create this nice contrast that I was talking about. To tie in the image though with the background, I decided to color the book with shades of pink, so we have a bit of a link between the image and the background, but the contrast still makes it pop. I also wanted to apologize for the sound of my voice right now. I caught a cold and, well, I guess this is the season for that. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that really briefly. And then we can go back to the coloring. At this stage, I am coloring the bench, for which I use some darker tones of neutral brown. I would say it's not a very warm one. And then I moved on and colored the little doggy. And for that I used some warm grays to add some shading because I wanted it to look white. So I'm using 2 shades of warm grays that I'm then going to blend towards the highlights that I left empty with my colorless blender. And then to add a little bit of character to this cute little dog, I am going to come in with a brown marker and add a few details to several parts of its body. I used the coordinating dies to the Friends stamp set to die cut my image out, and then it was time to start working on my sentiment. As I mentioned, I used this very clever combination of the Anytime Stack stamp set and the Stack Sentiments die by LDRS Creative, which allowed me to create a ton of sentiments at once. I really love using this white pigment ink, and I find I get the best results when I work with cardstock that is not too sleek, so when it's a little bit absorbent. And also I like to add more layers rather than, saturate my ink pad with a lot of ink. I'd rather use my mini MISTI and then ink up the stamp a couple of times and build my contrast like that. And as you can see, the stamping impression is really good and the white looks really white. I added a 3rd layer with my ink. I guess my pressure wasn't very even because you can see that the lower part of the stamp didn't stamp quite as nicely. And then I could come in with my sentiment stack die and basically die cut all the banners at once. The way in which the stamp and the die work together is that the stamp will stamp 4 little squares on your card panel, and you will basically use the square openings that you have on your die to line up everything correctly so that you can die cut your banners perfectly. I secured the die in place with some purple tape so that it wouldn't shift, and I ran everything through my die cutting machine, and now I have a bunch of sentiments that I can use for my cards. I'm going to pick one for my project and put the rest in the stamp packaging. And I also wanted to let you know that there is also another set of sentiments that will work with this die, and the name of the stamp set is Love Stack, and I will link to that too in the description box down below alongside the rest of the products that were used for today's card. I glued the image and the sentiment banner to my card front, and then I finished off the card by adding a few details with a white gel pen. And here is the final result. I think this card turned out really cute. I loved that little image and I love the elegant touch that was added by the tone-on-tone lacy rectangle background on my card. As always, if you did enjoy this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and leave a comment in the comment section down below. This helps my channel a lot. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe for more card making and paper crafting inspiration. And as always, thank you all so much for stopping by and have a great day.